Are you tired yet? Tired of being afraid of everything? Are you finally tired of wanting to do something and having a dream and a vision and not being able to go after it? Are you finally tired of letting life win when you were not designed to be defeated by anything that comes your way? Then stay tuned because this is the Bible study for you. Tonight, we're going to come out of 2 Timothy 1 and 7, but we're not going to come out of the Standard New Living Translation, and we're not going to come out of the King James Version. What we're going to do is we're going to come straight out of the Greek. And there's a reason for that, and I want you to pay attention. So when you hear the words sounding a little bit different than what they do in normal English, just understand that it's a transliteration from the Greek to the English. You ready? 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Not for has given us God. Again, not for has given us God a spirit of cowardice, but of power and of love and of self-control. I want to give this to you because the thing that I really want you to understand is that the Greek word behind the word spirit is pneuma. And pneuma is breath or wind, the implication of an actual spirit. You see, the thing is that most of us are attacked by spirits and we don't know it. And while we're not going to go directly into that tonight, what I want you to understand is that fear is a spirit. It's not something that you have to carry. It's not something that you have to deal with. It's something that comes along, has the ability to impact you, to stop you in your tracks. But the thing that fear is really good at is hiding. And you know where it hides? It hides in our excuses. It hides in the things that we don't say. It hides in the things that we do say. It hides in the messiness with which we handle situations. It hides. And as long as you keep letting fear hide, you are going to keep living the life you say you don't want to lead. You see, God didn't create you to be afraid of anything. And I want to give you an example because we're going to come out of the Old Testament for this one and we're going to talk about Goliath. Because let me explain to you why people were afraid of Goliath. You see, Goliath was 9 feet tall. How did they know Goliath was 9 feet tall? They could see him. Goliath had 6 fingers. How did they know? Because they could see him. You see, fear begins with what we see. Because let's be honest, if a bunny rabbit came up and attacked you, you would laugh. You would be like, what are you doing, you little thing? And you would more than likely just pick it up and move it away. That's what you would do. You wouldn't waste your time even thinking about that little rabbit attacking you. But if a Doberman Pinscher, came charging at you, you wouldn't stand there fearless. Most of you would run. But as people who have dominion, you can tell that dog to stop. And if you believe that you have the dominion, it will stop. You know, I wouldn't have used that example had I not seen that happen with my own eyes. I will never forget watching a man who I swore was going to be mauled by this dog. And that dog came within inches, was getting ready to jump. He looked that dog in his eyes and said, "Oh, no, you won't." And next thing I knew, the dog was whimpering and walking the other way. I had never seen anything like it in my lifetime. That was when I learned the meaning of true dominion. That's what it means. You already have that in your life. You have true dominion. You can tell things no, and they can't happen. But you have to be walking with the Father. You see, if you understand that you are designed to be fruitful, then you understand that there's never a time that when you come up with an idea, you can fail. Failure comes because we allow the spirit of fear in. When we go back to 2 Timothy 1 and 7, the spirit of cowardice means that we're not willing to stand up. We're not willing to stand in the fullness of what God has for us. We are only willing to stand up as long as it's comfortable. And I want you to know very clear and very plainly that when you cause messy situations, you're a coward and you live in a cowardly manner. And you don't have a right to blame anyone for the things that are happening to you because the fruit that you are supposed to be planting is that of cowardice. And so everything you get from that point forward is going to come from a point of negativity. It takes courage to stand. It takes you being willing to say, I'm not going to be this person anymore. And then going through and learning how to not be that person anymore. But you can't play both sides of the field. You can't say, I want to change and then continue to do the same things over and over again. You can't take up somebody's time and then continue to do the same things over and over again. You see, here's the beauty of walking with the Lord. When you see people producing fruit, those are people that you want to work with. But here's fruit. Fruit is not necessarily they're making billions of dollars. Warren Buffett is a billionaire, but his wisdom outside of investing isn't always wisdom. Sometimes it's just messy. Just because someone knows how to make money does not make them wise. Knowing how to walk with people, learning how to speak when it's time to speak, stay quiet when it's time to stay quiet, fight when it's appropriate to fight. We already know from Proverbs. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, Ecclesiastes, forgive me. There's a time for everything and a season under heaven. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to laugh, a time to cry. We can go through all of these things. There's appropriate times that we deal with things. But you have to get to the place where you want to learn how to use that time, how to harness that season, and how to judge in the midst, in a split second, what is it that I need to do? You see, if you're not paying attention, then you are going to end up in a situation where you're doing more harm than good, where you're reaping what you sowed, and you weren't wise enough to know that the seeds you planted were seeds of destruction. So many people sit back and want to blame God. God, you're not saving me. You're not this. You're not that. I already taught you how to save yourself. I have given you an entire book of how to save yourself. So I want you to understand how the spirit of fear works in all of this. The spirit of fear hides in our excuses. I'm not a good writer. I'm not good at business. I'm not good at being a parent. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. It hides in your excuses. It hides in where you blame other people for the things that you don't want to take responsibility for. I wouldn't have done this if you hadn't done that. I'm sorry, I thought you were a grown adult. You take responsibility for the decisions that you make, which is exactly what this verse tells us. You were given the spirit of power, love, and self control. A sound mind is being able to control oneself. You don't have to cuss somebody out. That's somebody who doesn't know how to exercise their self control. That's someone who's messy and whose life fear trumps all in. And you see, fear is not like other spirits. Fear loves messy, loves messy. The messier your life, the happier fear is. You know why? Because there's that open jail cell and you are sitting there stuck. unwilling to move, unwilling to persevere, unwilling to go through, unwilling to change anything that's going on. You won't listen to those who have a long history of being successful, of handling situations, of sacrificing what they want so that they can deal with the betterment of other people. You won't listen to them, oh, because they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, I know them behind closed doors. Really? Are they living two lives? Or are they consistent even behind those doors? You know, a couple, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, a friend of mine passed away. He was 45. And, he had had a kidney transplant, he had lost appendages, all because he had diabetes he wouldn't deal with. You see, if he had dealt with that diabetes, he wouldn't have lost his kidney and he wouldn't have lost his appendages, but he didn't want to. He wanted to live in the world that he was perfectly healthy and that he could eat whatever he wanted to eat. And so, after getting his hair cut on a Saturday morning, he fell forward dead. Didn't suffer, just died. The beauty of his experience is that he had just accepted the Lord into his life and was learning how to work that way. But the mess he left behind had the ability to destroy every single thing that he had accomplished. And it was funny because in one of our sessions, I had said to him, you've got to get to the place where you stop telling yourself you're doing well. Because the moment you think that you're doing well, you will create a situation where things end up being worse than you expected them to be. And while he was telling himself he was doing well, he was still making choices that compromised the people that he says he loved. When we let fear run free in our lives, we compromise those around us. You have one life to live. You want to overcome fear, there's only one answer to how you overcome fear, and that's the truth. Not the world's definition of the truth. Truth is not a fluid concept. It's static. It does not move. It is immovable. Like I said in another Bible study, tell gravity not to hold you to the ground and let me know how that works for you. Gravity is not going to stop doing its job because you ask it to. The principles that are woven into our world are not things that allow you to have quote unquote dominion. Can you go into a sky and jump? Yes, but gravity is pulling you to the ground. And once you hit maximum velocity, you're falling as fast as you're going to fall. You better pray that that parachute opens. And for many people, it does. No harm, no foul. But it still didn't stop gravity from doing its job. The principles that God has woven into this earth to help you be successful, you can't exercise dominion over. You can only choose to accept and work within. So when you are working inside of those principles, all things are available to you for your success. I don't care what part of the country or world you live in. You can go from poverty to riches in this lifetime because of the principles that God has set you up with, because He has already created a way for you to be a success. If you live in a country where water is at a minimum, okay, plant potatoes. Faith Like Potatoes is a movie where a guy who lived in Africa decided God told them to plant potatoes and they had no rain and they started digging and there were the potatoes. They grew. That's where God comes in. When it's against all odds, when there is no possible way you could be a success, that's when God comes in. And He says to you, I got you. And you get your miracle. but you have to have already taken the steps. And by taking those steps, fear's gonna attack you. What is wrong with you? What were you thinking? Like, there's no rain. Why would you plant a garden? It's not gonna grow. It's not gonna this. And you just say, yeah, God already told me I'm gonna be fruitful. Everything I do will be fruitful. That's the thing. You got to remember that everything you do is going to produce a fruit. Just because something doesn't produce a fruit, just like that, doesn't mean it's not going to produce. It just means in that instant, it's not producing. You following me? I want you to understand that because there's nothing you put your hand to that shouldn't produce for you. That's what this life is about. Your job was to come here and do what you do best, whatever that is. If it's making movies, writing scripts, writing books, telling stories, whatever it is you do, there are unlimited things on this planet that you can do, and not one of them includes negativity. You get to craft and create your whole life because God gave you the freedom to do that. You're going to have ups and downs. Sometimes it's going to look bleak. It's okay. It's still going to work out. And you've got to trust that no matter what it is you're facing, it's still going to work out. That's what's awesome about the Father. And remember this, the principles stand no matter whether you believe or not. Let me tell you what the difference is between those who believe and those who don't. Those who believe in the Father grow potatoes where there's no rain. Those who follow the principles but don't believe, their their gift, their blessing is only going to go as far as the work they did and the principles that they put into place. That's the difference, and that's the key. When you are a believer and you are walking with the Father, as you plant seeds, it doesn't matter how long those seeds sit and you think they're dead, they're still working. They're still working. They're waiting on their season to finish marinating so that they can produce that fruit. It's not the same when you don't believe in Jesus. But here's the funny thing. Here's the really funny thing about that. It's a great irony of life. I love it. Because if you plant seeds in the world, something you were hoping for, and suddenly you turn tables, sometimes those seeds kick back up and they begin to grow. It's the oddest thing. I've seen it happen a handful of times. There are certain circumstances I've never seen it happen. Like if you lose something or something like that, you may never get it back. But here's the deal. There are many times you'll plant seeds and you don't know. And you'll walk into God's kingdom and voila, those seeds will begin to grow. And you just sit back and go, this is the oddest thing I've ever seen because it was weird. Like there was no reason that that should have still produced fruit. And yet it did. You have to remember the only reason things look impossible is because we have a finite mind, a mind that is incapable of grasping that which is infinite. None of this is real to God. Okay, so you have a house, you have this, you have that, you have the other. Tomorrow you may not. But the spirit of fear will always try to remind you that there's nothing you can do to create success. It will work desperately to build doubt in you because doubt is the thing that keeps faith away. As long as you doubt it, eh, fear just won. And it has control over your life. And it brings to you every single thing that you say you don't want. So let's summarize, shall we? How do we defeat fear? Number one, we have to confront fear with the truth. And it's not our imagination of what we think truth is. It is the solid biblical foundation because the Bible is the concrete that we stand on. No, I don't want to hear, oh, it was interpreted by man. No, no, it wasn't. Actually, the original Bible was written by God. So go search your Bible and find it. It's in there in black and white. And no, I'm not going to help you. You got to go find it. Because if you really want to know, God will tell you what you want to know. You have to want the truth. You don't get to sit back on your couch eating bonbons and think the truth is just going to pop out of the woodwork for you. You have to look for it. That's why he says, seek and you shall find. Knock and you shall receive. I'm sorry, forgive me. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be answered, opened. I think I might stop doing Bible study on Fridays. Anyway, number two, the second way we defeat fear is that we start planting new seeds. We start going after things and understanding that we were always created to be fruitful. God has already told us everything we do will prosper. Not some things, not this thing, not that thing, everything. Why is this such a hard concept? You want to know why? Because you're letting fear win. We say it wasn't successful because it didn't happen the way we think it should have happened. You're attached to an outcome. Let the outcome go. You only have control over the work you do. Once you've done the work, the outcome will be what it will be. That doesn't mean you don't go back and improve it while you're waiting on it to become whatever it's going to become. It just means that understand that it needs work. And that's fine. That's fine. Work on it. Let it set. Let it marinate. Work on it. And then when it's ready, it will go where it's designated and designed to go. You have to want to be fruitful. You have to want to be the success. Lastly, I'm no different from you. There was a time I was caught in fear. But I'll tell you, the final straw came when I got beat down in such a way by life that I never saw coming. And I was so angry at what fear had done. That was the first time I looked it in its face and I said, you will never do this to me again. Next thing I knew, I was on an upward spiral, an upward staircase, moving in a direction I never imagined. And since then, the lives that the work I have been able to do has changed, has just been mind-boggling. I'd never seen anything like it in like all my life, right? Like that was not real in my world. And then all of a sudden, the more I watched it work, the harder I became driven that I was going to solve this problem. The more I decided I wanted everyone to be fear free, that no one should have to live with this the way that I did. And we're not talking about, oh, well, you had one incident. No, I had one defining incident that said, no more will you be allowed to do this. That doesn't exclude the 20 million experiences I had before I got to that point. It was all those experiences that brought me here. I'm not telling you you can live your life fear-free because I haven't done it. I do it every day. Every day that I get up and I finish off these books, every day that I challenge myself to write new chapters, every day that I go back and review my work to make sure that whatever I bring to you is always going to be something phenomenal that you can put into place and change your life. You have the keys right now. Tell fear the truth. I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z. And it's funny because when you say that, it literally will make fear begin to shrink away. Because where truth exists, fear doesn't have a place to hide. It hides in the secrets that you keep, in the lies that you keep. Every time you go and you buy alcohol, drugs, and you hide them somewhere in your house thinking that you're doing something, that's where fear is living. Every time you tell your wife you're going someplace and you go someplace else, that's where the spirit of fear is living. You're not brave when you let fear have power in your life. You're a coward. And we saw that when we went back and looked at the Greek for exactly what it was. So tonight, today, this afternoon, when you're watching this, you get to make a choice. You're going to let fear continue to run in your life? Or are you finally going to allow yourself to live a fear-free life? Are you finally sick and tired of fear handing you your bottom on a silver platter and going, how's that working out for you? And there's nothing you can do but cower in a corner and cry. That's not who you are. Your job is to remember that you have power, love, and self-control. Everything that tries to stop you, all you have to do is tell it no. You will win. You just have to know that you will win. And not N-O, K-N-O-W, that you will win. I'll see you next week.